Nithyananda sir?
I'm ready.
Yes, sir. Thomas sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
So good afternoon, all. It's my honor and great privilege to welcome Dr. Nithyananda to this 1 week faculty development program. Dr. Nithyananda is an assistant professor in the area of finance and legal system at the Indian Institute of Management, Trichinopalli, where he teaches courses on legal aspects of business, legal aspects of marketing, legal aspects of entrepreneurship, and strategic management of intellectual property rights. He has been teaching the strategic management of intellectual property rights for the last 9 years. He has also taught this at Singapore, Malaysia, and Sri Lanka. With backgrounds in both finance and legal system areas, he brings a unique perspectives to business problems. He comes with a rich consulting experience of 6 years where he was working in the area of urban infrastructure finance. During his consulting years, he has provided consulting services to the World Bank and ABD. In addition to Bangalore Development Authority, Mysore City Corporation, Jalgan City Corporation, among others. In addition to his consulting experience, he brings in academic experience of around 15 years and industry experience of 2 years. He sits on the board of 2 private companies, and he is also providing consulting services to many companies in the area of pharmaceutical, media, electronics, and telecommunication on aspects like valuation of intellectual property, IPR strategy, collateralization of IPR, etc. He also does contract evaluation and contract management advisory services as part of his consulting activities at IIM Trichy. Currently, Dr. Nithyananda holds the administrative responsibilities of Chairperson, International Relations at IIM Trichy. With this brief intro, I would like to welcome Dr. Nithyananda to deliver his talk on law and management. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas, for that kind introduction. Thank you for the invitation, Professor Amritalingam and the FIP committee. I really appreciate that, and I also would like to personally thank the Vice Chancellor, Professor Elizabeth, for having considered me for delivering a lecture in the FIP. Now, the topic that was given to me was very interesting. Law and management. I didn't know what to talk about this, so I spoke to Professor Amritalingam and I spoke to Elizabeth ma'am to understand what is to be done. And based on that, based on the discussion and also based on the overall theme that is there for the FIP, I've designed something and I'm going to share that with you in the next maybe half an hour to 45 minutes time. Now, what I've done is I've divided this session into, or this my talk into 4 parts. 4 parts. So the first one is why even look at the aspects of law and management. Where is it coming from and why is that important? That's the first part. The second part is where I'll be talking about how the interaction between law and management takes place, and I'm not going to be talking about from various laws or various legal systems and various legislations or regulatory frameworks, but I'll be talking about it from a purely economic research that has been carried out across the globe, and I'm kind of providing a summary of that literature that I've studied when I came here and joined IIM Trichy. Then that's the second part, where I'll talk about the economic rationale for why business and management, business management and law, they interact and how do they interact and what are the aspects there. And then I would also like to share with what I do here in my course at IIM Trichy, because I know this is more focused towards pedagogical tools and pedagogical aspects. I'll be focusing on 2 elements there. So how do I introduce the course or the subject of law for a business student? When I say business students, I don't teach only for the PGP, that is the MBA students. I also teach it for doctoral students. I also teach it for the working executives programs. and the MDPs. So I teach across functionalities, across programs. So how do I introduce this area of law for my managers? That's something that I'll take you through. And towards the end, I think the last slide, there's only one slide where I'll talk about the courses that I teach at IIM Trichy, and the pedagogical tools that I apply for those courses, and why there are different pedagogical tools that I apply for those courses. So that's the quick overview of what I'm going to do. So let's start with this. Okay. Ah. So let's start with I think maybe 80,000 feet above the ground kind of a discussion. If we start that, why do we do business? We see that one of the definitions that I studied during my 12th standard was, what is business? The state of being busy is business. That's what they say. But then the actual, okay. Is the slide visible?
Yes,
Sir,
brother.
visible, sir.
Okay, yeah. But if you take a serious look at what's happening in the business world, you can see that there's something which is very profound explained in the book of The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, and he says, the activity of business is got something to do with uh, investing capital, investing money, and creating wealth for the country, for the business, for the activity, and so on. So fundamentally, that was the book which created this concept of capitalism, and it goes on and on. I'm not going to talk about it and talk about that late in detail. You are all familiar with it. But one thing that it kind of created as a concept is um, the creation of wealth as a foundation for a lot of these business activities that are currently pursuing. Now, when I say business activity, I'm restricting myself to for-profit entities, which is the majority of the firm activities or commercial activities. I'm not looking at not-for-profit, where there is also some kind of wealth which is getting built, but then it's a different kind of a social wealth that is getting built, maybe not the monetary wealth that is getting created. So I'm not going to be talking about that particular issue. Now, if you look at that is at a macro level. Now, if you go at a micro level to subjects like financial management, corporate finance, business finance, and so on, the first introduction that we all have is why financial management? Why do you have to manage corporate finance, or why do we have to manage finance per se? One of the things that they say is wealth maximization. Wealth maximization is a foundation of financial management. I'm just bringing in these bits and pieces to try to connect to a bigger picture. So using these bits and pieces, we can see that the very reason why we conduct business activity is for creating wealth. And there are lots and lots of literature on creating wealth. Um, uh, Starting from the legal literature to economic literature to philosophical literature. But drawing on a few of them, my understanding is we do business to create wealth, and this wealth will be distributed among various stakeholders. When I say stakeholders, it belongs to the shareholders, the managers, the employees, the society, the government, and various other people who are associated with this business. So, now there are two very interesting economic concepts that I would like to bring in. It says, at least one of the things that I recently read was this Code of Capital by Katharina Pister, where she's talking about this four aspects of wealth creation. In order for anybody to create wealth, uh, the legal system has to be facilitating four important aspects. What are those four important aspects? That it has to provide priority, meaning the owner's rights to an asset is much more predominant and it's much more superior than the tenant's rights. So there has to be a prioritization process. Similarly, the owner's rights is superior to a mortgagee's rights. So those priority has to be defined by the legal system, and it has to be protected by the legal system. Then it should provide durability, meaning This durability as in the laws which are there, the assets which are there, it should be durable, and it should facilitate the not only the creation of wealth and also the storage of wealth, but it should also facilitate the transfer of wealth from one generation to the other, or one time frame to the other time frame. So that's durability. The third one is universality, and it should be applicable to most of the most kinds of assets, most kinds of uh, the economic systems as well. So that's the universality. And then the fourth one is convertibility. If you feel that one kind of asset is not there, not uh, suitable at that given time frame, then there should be convertibility to other forms of assets. So these are the four very important aspects of wealth creation, and these four aspects have to be facilitated and strengthened by the legal system. It's a very, very important concept. And uh, Professor Pister, she gives this example. Let us take this four kinds of assets: land, firms, debt, and know-how. Then these six kinds of legal modules play a very crucial role in not only managing it, but also in terms of enhancing the wealth creation among the owners of those assets. So those six modules are contract law, property law, collateral law, trusts, corporate law, and bankruptcy law. So these are the six modules that she talks about in her book. Assets and legal modules is equal to capital creation or wealth creation. Now, this is the core of the wealth creation. But then, in a very old book, Hernando de Soto, in The Mystery of Capital, he says the legal system, the strength and its effectiveness determines how effective this wealth creation is, and how efficient it is in terms of creating and also distributing the wealth in the country. So these two are very important kind of, and in fact, the book on book by Hernando de Soto, it talks about um, the time frame for various aspects to start a business. If you start a business, what all needs to be done, and in order for you to start a business, how much time does it take in different countries? So it's a very interesting study that he's conducted, and somebody in India was doing a similar kind of a study, and I know the fact because it was not published. They were still conducting it. To start a business in India, it takes to forming a company it takes about 15 days or 20 days at the max. But then to get all the necessary licenses and approvals and actually start a business from the idea to the conception, it takes about a year in India. So that is the kind of data that is kind of being there. So is that user friendly? Is that beneficial for the business? I don't know. I'm not going to be commenting on that. But it is something to be thought about. It's something to be explored through other kind of researchers by other researchers also. Now, um, according to me, this is based on my understanding of the interaction between law and business, law and management. Um, the interaction between law and management has three facets. One is the regulatory compliance by the business, and within this, when I say regulatory compliance by business, within that we also include the criminal liabilities and the environmental issues. Everything comes under the regulatory compliance of the business. That's the first stage. The second one is creating value for the stakeholders. This is where very, very important aspect, creating value for the stakeholders. And then the third one is managing risk for and on behalf of the stakeholders. So these are the three primary objectives for the law and management to be interacting. Now, these three elements, I'm bringing this research by a professor from Harvard Business School called Constance Bagley. So she has done this. She has carried out this research and she has published at many forums, at many outlets. So you can access that literature. So these three are the primary reasons why law and management interacts: creating value for stakeholders, managing risk, and regulatory compliance. Now, in addition to that, or to support that argument of creating value, um, you can see, I think I just logged into the other session, and I was because I was curious. Nobody was logged in even after I logged in. When I logged into the other session, I realized that the session was still going on, and I was happy to learn something from that session. the professor was saying that it is not sufficient if you just focus on acquiring IP assets, but you should also know how to commercialize it, how to leverage it, or how to manage it. So that's that same argument I would also like to advance here when I bring this statement. Probably you're all familiar with this professor called Henry Chesbrough. He's a Harvard Business School professor who is a specialist in open innovation. In his book, in the open innovation book, he makes this small footnote. It's a footnote presented in some remote corner of the book at page number 212. Now he says that creating wealth is not just about focusing on law or creating the assets. Now, IP law, just taking an example of the law and business, IP law helps you to create assets. It could be patents, trademarks, copyrights, designs, and so on. But those assets are just certificates which you can keep it in your locker and ignore it, and then it will not create any value for you. But if you integrate your IP asset with a business model, meaning you create a barrier around that IP asset, and you create a small opening. You create a small opening through that, and you put a toll booth. And this business model should be so effective, so efficient that it should be interacting with others' business model, and it should facilitate their business model also, operating their business model also. And once that is there, you can create a barrier, create a small toll booth, and then whoever wants to interact with your IP asset, you can charge a toll. Meaning what? Basically, if you are, if your IP asset is very strong enough, and if you want to enhance the value of it, you can use business models like licensing or auctioning or collateralization, securitization, then sale of IP assets, and many more business models that can be deployed successfully and efficiently to generate wealth for you. So this IP asset, which is a legal concept, intellectual property rights is a legal concept, but that IP asset can be used to enhance the wealth for the stakeholders of any business organization. This is just one example that I'd like to quote at this juncture. Now, so that's the first stage. Why the interaction between law and business is relevant? Basically for wealth creation, and wealth creation can be achieved in three things: regulatory compliance, creating value, and managing risk. Those are the three things. Now let's look at the first one, regulatory compliance of business. Now, any regulatory compliance in any country, and again, this is based on published research, uh, and it's not specific to India. It is a study which was conducted with multiple countries. But then I would want to share this. I'd like to share this research with you. Now, regulatory compliance of business primarily focus on this interaction, this framework. Now, what happens in this framework is now within the society, you can see there's a broad circle within the society. The public laws, that is, whatever the government is enacting, they create three things for the business activities. Now, what are they? The first, allocate firm resources and capabilities which are required, essentially required for business organizations, and it also provides the environment in which the business firms compete. Okay, is it a monopolistic kind of an environment like the railways in India, or is it the perfect competition like a market framework, or is it a duopoly like the cell phone operators, duopoly or oligopoly, or is it oligopoly like the oil cartel? So that is decided by the government. The firm resources could be uh, your radio waves for the telecom, your minerals, your road, your infrastructure. All that is provided by the government. Now, the provision of these resources and the competitive environment is facilitated through the public law. Now, public law also provides something very important, which is the judicial system, the police and the court system. Now, this judiciary and the police system, it provides for the public enforcement of contracts. That's a court system, and also in case there's a theft and there's a there's a misappropriation of assets, then all of that is kind of addressed and efficiently implemented by the judicial system. So that is the very important aspect of this public law system, public legal system. Now, within this firm resources and competitive environment, the managers have to build their organization. They have to build their organization. When I say that, they have to ideate, they have to conceptualize, they have to take an idea and make it into a business model, then build a business plan around it, then make sure they get necessary finances around it for implementing it, execute it, and then achieve the results. So that is where the manager has to pursue an opportunity to create and capture value while managing risks. So this is the objective of the manager. Now, in case there are any problems, then the managers or the business activities, business organizations per se, they rely on the court system, the judicial system, and also they'll keep providing the government in terms of the lobbying mechanism and so on. So there's a continuous loop between the business, the government, and the legal system. So it's a three-pronged approach which is interacting with the society. So there is one thing which is firm action prompts change in public rules, that is where the lobbying comes in, and firm act increases the realizable value. They will also it acts to manage risk, that will enhance the welfare of the society per se. So all this is the business regulation framework. The way the government provides for the regulation of business, they focus on four important aspects. One is promoting economic growth, protecting workers, promoting consumer welfare, and promoting public welfare. So these are the four important aspects. Now this is where I would like to bring in the interaction between the law and the business. So when they bring in these four important objectives for governing business, each of them has very specific laws that have been enacted, not just in India, across the world, and to focus and um, to facilitate the achievement of these objectives. For example, if they have to promote economic growth, you can see that there are this protecting property rights and creating incentives for innovation. These two become very important. So this can be done through property law and intellectual property protection. Now, one of the things that can be very foundational to the promoting economic growth is your contract law. Enforcing contracts is again a very important framework that is provided by the government. Then free capital markets and promoting free trade, they are very closely related, because facilitating capital markets, you need to have foreign players or foreign direct investments to come in. So having an efficient capital market in India and also promoting free trade will facilitate not only the capital inflow, but also exporting of your products and services. So those two are related. Then you talk about economic incentives, that is subsidy and tax infrastructure. Then also facilitate the labor market. So all these are tools, the legislations. Just give me 1 second, please. Sir, I'm on a session. Can I call you later? Yeah. Yes, sir. I will do that, sir. I will call you. I will call you. Thank you. Sorry for that. So these are some of the important parameters or KPIs that the government would use to create regulatory frameworks or the compliance systems for promoting with an objective of promoting economic growth. Similarly, when you talk about protecting workers, there are three fundamental objectives there. One is regulating certain employment conditions, terms and conditions of employment, then require employers to provide certain benefits, that's benefits to workers, and protecting civil rights in the workplace. So these are some of the objectives for enacting laws and regulations to promote and to protect workers. So there are all of you are familiar with the laws which are there in each of these domains. It could be minimum wage, safety regulations, trade unions, worker compensation, harassments, privacy protection. These are the legal tools that are deployed by the government in protecting workers. Then promoting consumer welfare. This is one of the important areas that I work in, and I also offer this course on legal aspects of marketing. These are the aspects that I fundamentally discuss in my course. One is it has these 4 objectives: promoting sale of safe products. I think our FSSAI laws talk about this. Then we have facilitate low-cost product and services. This is where antitrust and unfair trade practices comes in. Legal metrology comes here. Then facilitate innovative products and services. IPR is there. Then prevent deceptive practices, packaging laws, your MRP laws, your advertisement regulations. All of those they come under this protecting and promoting consumer welfare. The last one is promoting public welfare. Now, not all of these activities have to result in the welfare of the business, but whatever the businesses contribute in terms of taxes and other things, they can be used for the overall welfare of the society. So how do they do this? That is done through various tools like tax laws, redistribution of wealth, enforcement of laws, then tort laws, then free speech, environmental laws. These are some of the things that are deployed as tools for promoting the public welfare by the government. So this is the first aspect of regulatory compliance, or the reason or the rationale for enacting laws which interact with business activities. Now, the next part that I would like to go into is the business decision making and the legal system. Now, business decision making and the legal systems, there are fundamentally 3-4 things that I would like to talk here. Let's look at the first one. Now, management, it's a very old definition. I don't want to get into that, but anyways, I thought it should be there. So it is coming together of various resources and people so that they can work together and achieve certain objectives, common objectives. Now, as I was mentioning earlier, the process of business management is idea, then you develop insights, you develop business models, you organize, and then you execute. Now, this entire process of business management has given rise to various functional areas. For example, finance. Finance will come at the stage of organizing. Your strategy comes into the sphere of execution, idea, and insight. Then your finance also plays a very important role in business model development and business plan creation. Then we have aspects like OBHR, human resource, that is organizing and business model. Your marketing, it is insight, business model, organizing, and execution. And your information systems, it is insight, organizing, and execution. At various stages, different functional areas play a very crucial role. Now, these functional areas have different aspects of laws that they need to be that every manager who's specializing in these areas need to be aware of, who's getting into those areas of management or functional areas they need to be aware of. So what we do is in my course, the first thing that I start talking to my students is this law and business decision making. So this is where I introduce through a simulated example where I tell them, okay, you come up with an idea. You come up with an idea, and let's say you come up with a new product. Now, the moment you decide to come up with a new product and you want to launch it in the market, you have to start a business. And for starting a business, you can't do it on your own. You bring your friends and relatives into this. So you're necessarily starting off with a contract. And the moment you start you start the business and you start selling the product, you're supposed to be dealing with sales. Okay, sales. The moment you deal with the sales, you'll receive the money, and some of the organizations might even tell you, no, I don't have the money right now. Give it to me on credit. So you're essentially dealing with negotiable instruments. So the moment you deal with negotiable instruments, some of those might be honored, some of them might be dishonored. You get into the creditor's rights. So once you start doing that, that is one part of the cycle. Then you start implementing and innovating on your product. So you look at intellectual property rights. You want to enhance your market scale, market scope into the entire country. So you have to resort to e-commerce. Then the moment you start selling all over the country and all over the world, you have to be very careful about product liability and obviously the elements of tort law. Then comes you want to expand your business not just through one office, but then you want to establish the dealer networks and retailer networks. You talk about agency law. Then you want to acquire companies. You need to be familiar with business organizations. Then, as professional managers, you need to be and as the members of the board, you need to be aware of the professional liability. And invariably, you're supposed to be familiar with codes and code procedures. So this is the first slide that I talk to my students, and these are MBA students who have just joined the MBA course, coming from different functional areas. And I tell them this is what is the interaction between law and business decision making. Any activity that you talk about, it could be any scale, any kind of activity, it has to fall within this framework. And there is always an interaction of law and business that they are supposed to be familiar with. Then I tell them, so this is what I tell them. If you, irrespective of whichever functional area you want to specialize in, you need to be aware of these laws. You can look at financial accounting. You're supposed to be looking at contracts, banking law, credit regulation, tax laws, insurance, antitrust, and international law. You talk about your strategy. You're supposed to be familiar with almost all the laws. You talk about marketing and sales. You're supposed to be dealing with contracts, sale of goods, consumer protection, advertisement regulations, business starts, antitrust laws, metrology, product quality, and international laws. Each functional area, I give them this framework. You decide which functional area you're interested in specializing in, and accordingly prepare for the laws that you're required to know, you're required to understand. So this gives the students a framework of, okay, now that I intend to specialize in this area, these are the laws that I'm supposed to be familiarizing myself with, and I should be working towards it. So we have a well stacked library where we provide material on almost all these aspects. So the students go to the library, access those resources, and in case they have any problems, they approach me and my co-faculty member, and then we help them understand this and at least get a functional understanding of these laws. Then uh, now what I'll do is I'll take you through to three examples. So one is the legal aspects relating to competitive strategy. So this framework I also introduced to my students. I tell them this is a framework which is essential for understanding the competitive strategy. And if you're trying to specialize in strategy, as I told you, as I mentioned here in the previous slide, this is a very important framework created by Michael Porter. It's called the value chain framework. Now, this talks about the core activity of any organization is inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, and service. This is the primary activity. But there are some functional areas or some functional support services which provide support to all these five functional areas. It could be firm infrastructure, that's asset management, your human resource, technology development, and procurement. So these both support services and primary activities, they provide decent enough opportunity for generating profits or creating wealth for the stakeholders. So tell them, if you want to specialize in strategy, tell them this is the framework that is there. These are the laws that are required to be understood by somebody who's getting into strategy. So this is something that they are told, they are made to understand, and they work towards getting a hang of this. For example, you're talking about technology development, that's R&D. They need to be necessarily be aware of IP protection, non-disclosure agreements, assignments of invention, covenants not to compete, licensing agreements, and so on. Similarly, you're talking about inbound logistics. You talk about contracts, antitrust, and environment compliance. So these are some of the things that we discuss in our first session, and we set an expectation of what the students have to expect when they get into the course. Okay, then this is another again a research output by uh, by Professor Constance Bagley. So where she's brought out this very interesting framework. What she's done is, as I told you, two things. One is the regulatory compliance is done. The remaining two parts is creating wealth, and the next one is managing risks. So what she has done is she has looked at the evolution of a organization or business organization, and she's divided that into 5 stages. So first one is evaluating opportunity and defining value proposition, assembling team. That's the next stage. The third one is raising capital. The fourth stage is development, marketing, and sale of product or services. The fifth one is harvest. So these are the stages of business development. For these 5 stages, there are various legal tools that can be deployed for both creating and capturing value and managing risks. So, for example, somebody is coming up with a new product. At the evaluation stage, what typically takes place is just give me 1 minute, please. Sorry, there was somebody at the door. Extremely sorry for this disturbance. Um, so when somebody is coming up with an idea with which they want to start a business, the first thing is go and protect your IP. Okay, that is from the creating and capturing value. But before you do that, you should also manage the risk so that you don't infringe on somebody else's IP. You go and see if somebody else already has already secured any IP on that particular concept or technology. So those are the activities that you do. Then we have, let's say, you're talking about assembling the team. You look at the appropriate business form, the equity incentives, and also non-disclosure agreements. That is for creating value. Similarly, while you're managing risk, you talk about um, complying with anti-discrimination laws, preventing harassment, then wrongful termination, and whistleblower protection. All these are assembling team, the tools that can be deployed for assembling the team. Similarly, when you look at the harvesting of the business, that is when the business is grown and as a founder you want to sell your stake to somebody else, or you want to pass on your wealth to your kith and kin so that you can retire. So if you're looking at that harvesting stage, you need to be looking at can you sell your shares in the as part of the IPO? Is there any vesting requirements? Then you look at due diligence, you look at prospectus disclosures, and so on. So these are some of the tools and techniques which are available within the business literature as part of the research for managing business activities. The other example that I quote or I share with my students is this: how even when a small thing like they're negotiating with their procurement officers, or they're negotiating with their customers or clients, they need to follow the business activity, whether it's fundamentally a business activity, the business thing, a contract negotiation or anything, but there is always a legal element attached to it. For example, they look at the make or buy decision. It's a business decision, it's a finance decision, it's a costing decision, it's a strategic decision. But once that is there, once you arrive at those decisions, you start negotiating with the buyers and the sellers, and you start negotiating those contracts, you start documenting those contractual terms, and then you start implementing it. So these are some of the things that I tell my students right up front, that don't think that business is only a pure business activity, it's a functional specialization alone, but it always has a legal dimension attached to it. So that's something that I inform my students. Then there's other framework that I would like to bring in. But before I introduce that framework, I just want to understand. Um, You all have access to the mic?
Yes, professor. It is given to all professors.
Okay, good. So let me ask you this small question. If I tell you Royal Enfield, what comes to your mind? Can you list out those things?
Two-wheeler.
Yes, two-wheeler, correct. It's a bike.
Comfortability.
Comfort, yes.
And luxury.
Fuel.
Luxury,
Fuel, professor.
yes.
Cost.
Fuel.
Cost, yes. Sir, I missed it. What was that?
Fuel.
Oh, okay. Fuel efficiency, not that great.
Brand. Sir.
Social status.
Status, brand, yes, correct. Stylish and looks, correct. You missed out on something very important.
Its cost, professor.
Cost is done.
Self-satisfaction.
Self-satisfaction, okay.
Uniqueness.
Right.
Uniqueness, okay. There's something very important.
Trademark.
It's
Trademark, yes. Sound, exactly. Sound. That is important. So these are some of the things. The moment I utter the word Royal Enfield, you get so many things that are coming to your mind. Now, if you look at this is a framework that we talk about as levels of product. This is a marketing literature taken from the book by Philip Kotler, considered to be the marketing guru. So he says every product has 3 layers attached to it. The first one is a core product. For example, when you say Royal Enfield, the core benefit is mobility. That is moving from one place to the other. It's the core benefit. But what happens is you're not protecting only the core benefit. You're looking at all the other elements that are embedded into the product. It could be about your features like mileage, the sound, the efficiency, the style, okay, the color, the design, the price, the performance standards, the mileage, somebody said is not good, the brand name, yes, it's a status symbol, and it's a packaging. The overall, it feels very nice. And that's called as the tangible or the actual product. And the augmented product is basically all the support services that the seller provides. It could be the installation, credit, warranty, customer service, seller's reputation, and delivery. Now, why am I sharing this with you? Because if you look at the trademark law, it does not protect only the core benefit. It protects all the other tangible products and augmented products. So we use frameworks like this to explain to our students the interaction between law and business. Okay, so we tell them the color is something very fundamental to the product. It can be fundamental to the product, like the chocolate. For example, Cadbury's chocolate. The moment I say Cadbury's chocolate, you can always imagine the purple color wrapper. So that is the color. They've protected it so well that the moment the trademark is there, the color also comes as part of it. And the moment we say Maruti Suzuki cars, or yeah, Maruti cars or Suzuki cars, we always look at it as the customer service. The customer service is good. The service cost is less. Similarly, you talk about any bank who, in terms of loan, the credit facilities also comes part of it. So a trademark is something that does not protect only the name or the logo or the color or the design or the shape of the alphabet. It protects the entire gamut of the layers of products. So this is something that we discuss with our students, and we tell them, no, this is what it is. You need to be familiar with not only the management concept, but also how this management concept has been integrated with the legal concepts. So these are some of the examples that I thought I can share with you. Then the last part, as I told you, the courses that are offered at IIM Trichy. And I'll tell you why I'm doing this, because it's a FIP on the pedagogy for faculty members. I just wanted to highlight why this is important and what are the tools, pedagogical tools that we have been deploying here at IIM Trichy. So we offer these 7 courses, 7 courses here at IIM Trichy. All of these courses are for 30 hours, 3 credits. The core course is legal aspects of business. in that course, we talk about 5 fundamental things or 7 fundamental things. One is introduction, next is contracts, the next is sale of goods and consumer protection, forms of business organization, including sole proprietorship, partnership, LLP, and company law. And then is intellectual property rights, ADR, and sexual harassment. These are the 7 modules that we introduce, just to make sure every single student who pass out from IIM Trichy, they are aware of these core fundamental elements of business. Then, based on their choice of specialization, based on their choice of functional area of expertise, we offer them different electives. The first 2, not because of students' preference, but because of my core expertise in that, I offer those courses: strategic management of intellectual property rights and business models for managing IPR. These are the 2 courses that I've designed. One thing that I should mention here is the strategic management of IPR. I've been teaching at France for the last 9 years. Okay, very well received, and they keep inviting me for that course. That course I offer through a simulation game. I've designed a simulation game which is of 9 rounds, and it's a paper-based simulation which we are now currently in the process of automating and running through a computer-based simulation. So that is there. And legal aspects of business is through movie clips, audio clips, HBS cases, HBS material. Similarly, business models for managing IPR is also through your HBS case studies and material. Legal aspects of marketing, it is, as I told you, it is divided into, it's focused towards people specializing in marketing, obviously. I've divided this course into 5 modules. The first is on the 4 P's of marketing: product, place, price, promotion. Those are the 4 P's. The 5th one is sale and after sale. So these are the 5 modules. So this is done primarily through lectures and videos and discussion. Legal aspects of entrepreneurship is a course where we quickly developed because there was a lot of interest on entrepreneurship related courses. So this talks about your forms of business organization. How do you start? How do you protect your IP? Some bits of marketing, some bits of technology, some bits of venture capital financing, negotiations, term sheets, and so on. So that's the scope of entrepreneurship. Then technology, it's a new course. We've just designed that and given it to the management for approval. That's a 5th course or 6th course. The last one is legal aspects of international business. Somebody who wishes to specialize in international business, this is what we do. This again is through a lot of case studies. As in, there are lots and lots of international business case studies that we have. Through that, we provide them this course. So this is all that I had. I think I thought, I thought I'll be able to complete this in about 45 minutes. Through with this. Any questions on this? I'll be happy to answer.
Participants, any questions?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, please.
Yes, sir. So to run the business, we need 4 M's: men, many, money, material, and machine.
Correct.
And also to maximize our wealth, first we need to earn profit. So profit maximization is also important. After that, we can create wealth. So when you calculate the created wealth value, as your slide did not include the men. You have taken land, farms, and other things, but you have not considered men. I think men is also playing an important role to create the wealth. I think that should also be a part of that group, I think. What do you think about that, sir?
I completely agree. This is the presentation made by Professor Katharina Pister. The assets that she has considered in her book is land, firm, debt, and no. She's just used it as an example. She doesn't say these are the only 4 kinds of assets that is required. So based on that is what I've taken it. This is the extract that I've taken from her presentation. Okay, but if you look at the other things, I did mention at a much larger framework where somebody is talking about regulating the business or the compliance element. There's always this aspect of employment governance, as in how do you facilitate the employees, how do you facilitate men to get into the organization, how do you enhance their welfare measures, and also make sure that they're safe and secure. So that element I already brought in at the time of promoting employee welfare.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other queries or any comments?
Hi, sir. This is Sriram here.
Yes, sir.
Sriram.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Yes, Sriram.
Yeah. So this is a general question, given the COVID distress and, all these circumstances,
Mhm.
since management, as well as law involves a lot of human factor and a human agency.
Mhm.
Now, how do you think the subject is going to, go in which direction do you think? Is there any challenges or is there any study that is being conducted on the abnormal circumstances, surrounding the operation of businesses all around the world, including legal problems that are arising, such as in board meetings and video conferencing and all these things, compliances? Is there anything that's happening, sir?
See,
Your perspective.
I think you would be in a better position to understand that and comment on that probably as lawyers and professors of law. And the reason I'll tell you is very simple. You all know the 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 government of India has said the court proceedings can happen over internet, over video conferencing. The board meetings can happen over video conferencing. Then all the important negotiations are anyways happening on the internet, which is again helping the businesses not only in saving money, but also enhancing their profits as well as making sure that there's wealth creation that is taking place. All that is being facilitated. Now, how long will they be facilitating this? We don't know. It can become a permanent fixture now, because in the last peak, I heard that about 20 to 30% of the Indian population were affected. But now I see almost 60% of the people that I keep interacting, they say that we are already positive, we are already positive. So if that is the case, we don't know how long or which direction this entire ecosystem is going to go. And given that kind of an uncertainty, would people be risking themselves to come back to the normal, or would they be comfortable doing business in a remote manner? That is one thing which is there. Now, most of the organizations, they were planning to open up in the month of December. But with the new wave which is started, they said, no, we don't want it to start anytime soon. You please continue wherever you are. Work from home is okay with us. It will also help us save our costs, and we would be happy to absorb a little bit of cost that you are incurring because of this work from home. So these are a few things that the business are accommodating. These are some things that the regulatory system is kind of accommodating. These are a few things that the employees are enduring. Okay, enduring and tolerating. So we don't know how it's going to go. It's a completely uncertain system. But I would like to share one small thing. When all of us started teaching online, again, this is because this got something to do with pedagogy. I thought I'd share it with you. All of us are concerned about few things, two, three things. One was the intellectual property rights, because most of our material that we share with our students, we share the physical copy of the textbook, we share the HBS cases, the printed copy or the digital copy, and we share a lot of journal articles with our students. We are concerned about the IP rights, and we were also doubly concerned because the moment we download from those databases, the name of I am Trichy and the date of downloading, all that gets recorded on that paper. If we share it with our students, these students can become very creative, and they would upload this material on some unwanted websites. Okay, for downloading some paper, for downloading some solution, or even sell those articles. So we're very, very concerned about it. One thing that we realized is give us a notice, give the students a notice, and make sure you kind of manage your own risk. There's no other way to safeguard that. You share it, you're doing it at your own risk, is what we told our students, and we said, thank you. Here is your material, and you do whatever you want to do with it. We also spoke to our agencies. This is what we're doing. We don't have an alternative, so please help us. And in case something else happens to us, we're not responsible. We kind of managed our own risks, and we released it to our students. So these are two perspectives that I shared. One is what's happening in the employees, organizations, and judiciary. The second one is what we did, what we implemented at IIM Trichy as a pedagogical tool. Hope that clarified, sir.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sriram.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Dear participants, if you're having any query, please feel free to raise.
I think that's it.
Yes. And if no more questions, then I invite
Thank you very much.
Mr.
Thank you.
Satya KR, Assistant Professor of Law, PIT School of Law, Chennai, to propose the formal vote of thanks. Over to you.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are on.
Yes, thank you. Very good evening to one and all present here. First of all, I would like to thank the TNNLU organizers for giving me an opportunity to deliver the vote of thanks here on the second day of this faculty development program on teaching and methodologies and pedagogy and interdisciplinary approach. First and foremost, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the resource person of today's session, Professor Dr. Nithyananda sir from IIM Trichy, for sharing his experience and knowledge on the topic law and management. Sir, I would like to specifically mention that you have started your presentation with a statement like, the state of being busy is business. I think that statement made me quite interesting to listen to you more. And you have beautifully handled the session by explaining the business management and the law and its relationship, by explaining about so many frameworks that is there and how it is being interrelated as well. And for sure, sir, I'll tell that this session was a knowledge enrichment session, and also it has enhanced our knowledge over the interdisciplinary approach, which is the need of the hour right now. And thank you so much, sir, for making this session a very interesting and enthusiastic one. I would also like to thank the Honorable Vice Chancellor of TNLU and the Registrar and all other organizers of this FTP, namely Dr. Amidalingam sir and Nirmal Singh Hira sir and Dr. Thomas sir and Dr. Akila ma'am for organizing such a beautiful FTP. I think the topic of the FTP is very contemporary in nature. In near future, this law is going to be an interdisciplinary, of course. So I think this topic has opened the doors for so many interdisciplinary approaches that we are going to do in the upcoming near future. So thank you so much for organizing such a beautiful FTP. And last but important, I would like to also thank all the participants who have been a part of this FTP to make this FTP a grand success. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dr. Nithyananda sir. So
Thank
spending
you,
your
sir.
valuable time with us.
Thank you, Nithyananda sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
Thanks.
yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all the participants.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Satyaranjan Mishra sir. So again, you spared
Thank you, everyone.
so
Thank you, sir.
valuable
Thank you.
time.
Thank
Good,
you, sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir. I request all the participants to join the tomorrow's session at 9:45 in the morning. The session will start at 10 a.m. sharply. Thank you all. Thank you.
Sir, Amridalingam sir, you're muted, sir.
Sir, Thomas sir.
Yes, sir. Sir, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible, sir. Who is
Sir,
the host, sir?
Sir, you are muted, sir.
Amidalingam sir, you are not audible. Sir, you have muted yourself, sir. Please unmute.
No, sir, still you are not audible.
I think Mike is having some issues.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes, sir.
Now I'm audible, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Now you are audible, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think there was some network issues. Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay,
Sir,
sir.
Thank you, Satya, sir.
Sir, Thomas sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, are you host now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm the host, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please stop recording, sir.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.